and Dean Pearson, and Helena Hoyt from San Diego State. So again, welcome to all of you. I'm going to be going through some of the classes, but I did want to ask all the original 1973 class to stand one more time. I know you did that earlier, but it did stand one more time so we can recognize you. They looked like they weren't threatening in their day, but I did find something about you guys. I found the 1973 college accreditation report that said there was a complete review. Now, 73, we'd only been open for 2 years, but in 73, they had to have a complete review of the program because our class complained. But the college said that it was a really good thing, and it exemplified the college's willingness to pursue the improvement of instruction that was positive, even though it said the faculty did not understand why we complained. I would like to ask if there's any families of nursing graduates. We have had mothers and sons, mothers and daughters, grandmothers, granddaughters, cousins, spouses. I'll start with, when we went through the program, it was different times, but I'm going to ask my spouse to stand up. Nick, Gary. And I do believe I forgot to tell you who I am. I'm Tina Gary. It used to be Tina Taylor, not Tina Turner. Are there any other husband, wives, mother, daughter, brothers, sisters? I know some new grads. Stand up, sisters. Margaret and Cynthia. We have parents of graduates right here in the front, Dr. Jaime and his wife. And are there others? Where are, there's some over here. Yes. I know there's some more. There's some recent grads also. I saw them come in tonight, the twins. Where are the twins? I saw you. Stand up. There you go. The RN graduations have been kind of interesting. We've actually had marriage proposals. Been some interesting things that have happened at those. So just kind of want to touch base. I want to also ask now directors of nurses from the RN program and from the hospitals. Now I know we have a few director of nurses. I think Ron Olds is here. Robin Adadero is here. There's Ron Olds. And are there any other, where's Colleen Mars from the first class? There she is in the back. Director of Nursing, Imperial Health Department. Now I would like the directors of nurses from the IVC program. Dee Dee Pollock, I saw you. Kathy Berry. Susan Gallon. So much. Okay, instructors. Now we have some interesting things with instructors. Some of our graduates are now our instructors. So will all the RN instructors, including the clinical RNs, please stand up. That's what you call grow your own. Okay, and I do have one other person, Jim Penley, who didn't want me to identify him, but Jim Penley tortured every one of those that took an action because they all there have been a few people asked, where did we do our clinicals in those days? It used to be called El Centro Community Hospital. It's now El Centro Regional Medical Center. I get that backwards. old habits die hard. Pioneers Hospital. There used to be something called the Imperial County Hospital. I actually did a rotation through the county hospital, which was very interesting. It had 54 beds, and some of those were locked for psychiatric care, and that was scary. Very scary. Calexico Hospital was open, and we did tours of duty down at Calexico Hospital. We also spent time at Valley Convalescent, Royal Convalescent, Developmental Center for the handicapped minors. We did our site at either Mercy Hospital, Mesa Vista, Vista Hill, Imperial County Mental Health. We tried to use all the facilities we could, and if it wasn't for all of these facilities, we probably wouldn't be here. Okay, I'm going to try and do a few slides and then bring up. Okay, just to kind of refresh a few people, are there any graduates from the BN program or RN that graduated from any nursing program in the 60s? Come on, talk about you. No one's going to. These people knew Elvis. They knew the Beatles. They knew the Rolling Stones. Yeah, Stevie Wonder, House of the Rising Sun. They had the Jumping Jack Flash. They were also the crowd where Vietnam began. Mini skirts. Go-go boots. And some people got into nursing because they read the Cherry Ames student nurse book. But it was in the 60s that we started looking at generic drugs. That's when they were first being debated. We got birth control pills. We had the first heart transplant. Smoking was labeled as bad for you. But the marijuana use was up. That other picture kind of explained that. Woodstock is this generation. The nursing caps, although a lot of people would argue over this at every graduation, the nursing cap, even in the 60s, was going away. There was a chronic shortage, which is why the RN and BN programs were started. We could not get enough nurses to serve down here. The ratios in, I think when I started at El Centro, we were lucky we had 2 nurse RNs on the night shift. We were thinking, wow, we did good for 30-something patients. There were other things going on. The Berlin Wall was built. I don't remember that. I remember it coming down. The Peace Corps, I remember. Haight-Ashbury, I remember. I have a dream speech, the Freedom Riders. This is the group in this decade that saw the assassination of JFK, Robert Kennedy, Martin Luther King, and Medgar Evers, and Malcolm X. First man walked on the moon. Most of us can remember, if you're my age, where you were when they walked on the moon. And the first Super Bowl was my sports fanatics out there. So what was happening here in Imperial Valley, there was a lady named Lillian Aguirre. She was the BN director, and she started the program. If anyone is out here that has a good memory of the 60s, we'd like to get some more information. We think there was a class possibly before the one on the current campus, but we know that this program was approved by the Board of Vocational and Psychiatric Technicians in 1964. Now, 1970s. Who are my 1970 graduates? I don't care when in the 70s. Please stand. I know there's a bunch of you. Notice the dress. It's amazing when you look at the dress. Some of these things come back. We got muscle cars too. We heard songs from Aerosmith, David Bowie, Alice Cooper, the Eagles, Elton John, Fleetwood Mac, Led Zeppelin, Santana. That was, Santana's been around a while, so, but he was back there. They had The Hustle, Thrill Is Gone, What's Going On, Hair, Tommy, Ring My Bell, Bad, Bad, Roy Brown. We had all sorts of things. The Godfather series started then. Grease came out. Star Wars started in the 70s. We also had the nice ones, Willy Wonka, the original. Superman, Exorcist, Harry Hollow. The Rockies started in the Saturday Night Fever. Don't know if any of you still have those leisure suits.
Yeah.
MASH. We used to watch MASH on TV. Bell-bottom pants. That's when Atari came out. We still had floppy disks. Those things were horrible. Email started. That was not fun. In the hospital setting, we saw CT scans, MRIs. First test tube baby. Smallpox was declared eradicated. The concept of genetic engineering was coming out. First coronary angioplasties were done in the 70s. The Heimlich maneuver started in the 70s. Legionnaire's disease came out. The first freestanding ambulatory surgery center came. That wasn't something different in those days, for sure.
He's always on his back.
Cigarette ads were not allowed on TV, but we could advertise condoms. The Patient Bill of Rights came out. Child-proof caps that my son was able to open when he was 3 years old. The Karen Quinlan case. Healthcare Financing Administration, HICFA, was formed. HMOs began. They predicted in the 70s that before the end of the 70s, we would have one national insurance. It didn't pass. We had other things happening. We had radioactive leaks. We had Kent State. Vietnam did end. And in Imperial Valley, we had Raha Koski was hired to start the RN program to address the shortage. In the valley, there was less than 75,000 people per census. That's far, sorry. And the first class was admitted and graduated. The first instructors were Al Meek. We had Hope would be here, but I don't think I saw him. Martha Brungart, Winoma Fehrenbach, Wanda Antonelli, Sally Blake, and Verna Gray. The budget for that program was $114,000. It's not that anymore. New grads were paid $6,500. We started for $3.10 an hour, and we thought that was good. So all you new people, we saw the really good salary. 1980s. Where are my 1980s people? Anyone from the 1980s? Got a few of them. Don't be shy. We had to stand up for the 70s. This group had MTV going on. They had Michael Jackson, Whitney Houston, Prince, kept changing his name, Madonna, Queen, Bon Jovi, Guns N' Roses, Thriller, who could do Thriller? Born in the USA, True Colors, Girls Just Want to Have Fun, and I Want to Dance with Someone, Funky Town, Mamba. Star Wars continues, Raiders of the Lost Ark, Back to the Future, Fatal Attraction. There's Bueller's Day Off, that still comes on TV. Terminator started. WWF started on TV. Along with Dynasty and Where's the Guys? I'm sure they remember Baywatch. Those all were the guys. In the healthcare setting, what we saw was our first AIDS cases. We saw the first artificial heart. We had the first live liver donor. DRG started. And if you don't know DRGs, then you can ask one of the nurses in here or anybody in here that's had to deal with the payment side of the hospital, and they'll tell you about how bad it was. Tylenol, tampering incident. This is where we started seeing things happening to medications that people bought over the counter. HMOs grew, hospices grew, telemedicine started. For those who had kidney stones, there was a new way to get rid of them with sound waves. EMTALA, which meant no one could be turned away from the ER if they were in critical need. No one. Stark law prohibited physicians from referring to anyone where they would benefit themselves or their families would benefit. The Berlin Wall came down. Mount St. Helens blew up. The Space Shuttle Challenger was an incident. Chernobyl incident. Halley's Comet went through. CNN began. And for the women out there, it's the first time that in this was used instead of Miss or Mrs. So in the 1980s, what was going on? The vegan program merged with the RN program. The LVNs exited in third semester. And in 1986, I thought this one was cute. The LVNs were allowed for the first time by the state to remove sutures and staples. Can you imagine that? 1986. During the 80s, Almy was a director for 1 year until Ellen Sachs started in 1981. 90s. Can't even read here. Who are my 1990s people? All right. 1, 2, 5. While these people were in school, there was a few things going on. We had Forrest Gump. We had cell phones, so little flip things, not smartphones. Spice Girls were back, or they weren't back, they were at it, you know. And we have all sorts of boys bands. NSYNC, Backstreet Boys, all sorts of those. Britney Spears actually got started in there somewhere. U2, Christina Aguilera, Dixie Chicks. Songs you heard was Nothing Compares to You, Waterfalls, Gangsta Paradise, Ice Ice Baby, I'm Too Sexy for My Shoes. And La Vida Loca, or whatever other songs you must think of. We watched Titanic. We watched Jurassic Park. We saw Ghost. We saw Sixth Sense. We saw The Men in Black #1. We saw Braveheart, Schindler's List, Unforgiven, The Bodyguard, Harry Potter. We started to see some medical shows also. We had ER, Chicago Hope. Who remembers who was in Chicago Hope?